Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. In this presentation, I'm going to show the criteria for an ideal short online presentation. You have to think about the topic, the layout, resourcing, how to do the discussion, and some presentation skills. Starting with the topic. The topic should be attractive, short, in a meaningful sentence. It should be avoided to have it in a question format and in a resultant sentence format. Let's go through one by one. Attractive, it should be new one, like a case report, a result of a research, a comparison, and it adds something to the literature. To be short, look at these examples. Example number 1. The important role of epithelial mapping in the screening for corneal ectasia. You can shorten it to the role of epithelial mapping in corneal ectasia screening, for example, just rewording in order to make the sentence shorter. Example number 2, the correlation between LASIK and the induction of post-operative dry eye. It's better to make it the correlation between LASIK and post-operative dry eye. It should be in a meaningful sentence. Example number 1, epithelial mapping and corneal ectasia. It's better to make it the role of epithelial mapping in corneal ectasia screening. It is more meaningful in number 2. Example number 2, LASIK and dry eye. It would be much better to make it like this, the correlation between LASIK and post-operative dry eye. Avoid question format. It's better to avoid the question format in the topic. For example, does epithelial mapping have a role in corneal ectasia screening? Can corneal ectasia be detected by epithelial mapping? Does LASIK induce dry eye? This is not a favorable format. Avoid resultant sentence, like epithelial mapping has an important role in corneal ectasia screening, as if you are stating a fact. Keratoconus can develop due to eye rubbing. X biomarker is found in tear film of keratoconic eyes. All of these sentences are not favorable because they are resultant sentences. Number 2, the layout. Take care of the order, the slide layout, illustrations, the amount of text, and the animation. Starting with the order. Start first with the outlines, then go through the background, then the body and the conclusion, and finalize with a take-home message. This is an example, the outlines. For example, we are going today to go through 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 like this. The background, you have to mention what was known and why is your presentation. Regarding the body, you have to mention the methods, results, and discussion if it is a research or a case presentation, for example. The conclusion. Here in the conclusion, you have to mention the resultant points. For example, in our study, LASIK-induced dry eye, there was a strong correlation with the hinge position, flap thickness, and ablation depth. For example, these are maybe fake facts, but I'm just mentioning them as example to put in the conclusion. Now, what is the difference between conclusion and take-home message? In the conclusion, you put the resultant points that you got in your study or research, and in the take-home message, it is like recommendations, what to do and what not to do. Like rehabilitate ocular surface before LASIK, create flaps, for example, more than 100 micron, avoid the 180 hinge position. Maybe some of these are fake facts, but I put them arbitrarily just to give you an example. The slide layout. This is one of the most important points because you have to have your own theme, your own personality, and this will reflect in your slides. For example, what you see now as a layout is my theme. It is my own personality. So I put, for example, the title of this slide or the title of the section I'm talking about, all right? And don't make it empty. If you go like this, don't make it empty. Then you can put, for example, the event name or the institute where you work. This is the event name, for example. Your name, you can put your titles as well. Regarding the illustrations, try to use as many illustrations as possible. The more illustrations, the better the quality of your presentation. The illustrations can be statistics charts, for example. They can be flow charts. They can be drawings, your own drawings, for example. And they can be pictures. They can be displays of machines. They can be tables. They can be a mixture of many things, but try to avoid these illustrations. Try to avoid them. We come to the text. If you follow these points, you will have a wonderful slide. Maximum 5 lines, in each line 5 words. And try to use the keywords only, and then when you see the keywords, you can remember what you are going to say. It's better to make the text in bold and nice font, and take care of the spacing between the lines. Look at this. This is very condensed. If you are going to read from the text itself, it would be boring for the audience, and they will be distracted, and maybe they will miss a lot of information. So try to apply this, and you can convert all of this text into the following. As you see, the spacing, bold, comfortable font, and just keywords. So it's better to use the bold, as we mentioned, and try to make the spacing comfortable for the eye, and try to avoid sharp fonts. For example, this is sharp font, and this one is more comfortable. However, it's up to you to use the font that you feel it comfortable for you and your audience. Now, regarding the animation, you have to avoid animation in your slides because they are distracting. We come to the third point, which is the resourcing. It consists of resources, references, and citation. Try to make your resources mostly evidence-based. You can depend partially on agreement, and you can mention your opinion, but in some parts of your presentation, and you have to mention, this is my opinion. It is not evidence-based, but this is my opinion. It should be like this. And you should mention where the agreement is. Second, for the references, researches, avoid referring to websites, avoid referring to YouTube, and avoid referring to social media. We cannot use websites, YouTube, or social media as references. They should be researches. And we all know that the pyramid of research, at the top of it is the meta-analysis, and at the bottom is the expert opinion. The stronger the reference, the stronger the presentation. Citation. It's very important to cite what you write in the same slide, not to mention that only at the end of your presentation. This is another example. If you take any picture from any source, you have to mention that source. Discussion. When you start discussion, stop sharing the screen because people would like to see you. And you have to show self-confidence and good knowledge, and you have to be up to date. Finally, the presentation skills, I'll show you some of them, but Of course, this is beyond the scope of this presentation. So in the beginning, introduce yourself and the pattern of the presentation. You can say, we can take the questions at the end, or please, you can interrupt me at any time for questions. So you have to mention to your audience your way of presentation. And during the presentation, you have to keep your voice consistent, not up and down, unless you want to highlight and emphasize some points, important points. And during discussion, it's better to give eye contact with the audience. And of course, to make the posture and facial expressions friendly to the audience. So as a take-home message of this presentation, to make a good online presentation, you have to take care of the topic, the layout, the resourcing, the way of discussion, and the presentation skills. Thank you for listening.